I raised my kids alone, but they don't call anymore. They say silence is golden, but let me tell you, there's a kind of silence that doesn't shine. It hangs heavy in the air like a question no one wants to answer. That's the silence I live with now. Not the peaceful kind that comes with age or a quiet morning on the porch. No, this one is different. It's the silence after years of giving, sacrificing, loving with everything you had, and realizing no one's calling you back. I raised my kids alone. No partner to lean on, no breaks, no backup, just me and them. I remember the long nights when they were sick, and I sat beside their beds whispering lullabies until dawn. I remember juggling 3 jobs to keep the lights on, skipping meals, so they could eat, going without so they didn't have to. I did it all with love, not because I had to, but because they were my world. And now it feels like I've vanished from theirs. I'm not bitter. I don't hate them. But there's a hurt I carry quietly, one I rarely speak of. You see, nobody prepares you for this part. The part where you realize the little hands that once reached for you now hold phones they don't use to call. The voices that once said, "I love you, Mommy," now belong to adults who are always too busy. And maybe that's just how life goes. Maybe I expected too much. But after all I gave, I didn't think I'd grow old feeling like a chapter they've already closed. This isn't a story for pity. I'm not here to point fingers or cry over the past. I'm telling you this because someone out there feels the same way. You loved with your whole heart. You gave until there was nothing left to give. And now you sit by the window, listening for a phone that doesn't ring. I want to speak to that part of you. Not the strong, put-together version you show to the world, but the quiet ache behind your smile. Because even in the silence, our stories matter. And this one deserves to be heard. There's a kind of love that doesn't ask for thanks. The kind that wakes up before the sun, tiptoes past sleeping children, and heads off to a job that barely pays the bills. Then comes home, takes off tired shoes, and starts the second shift cooking, cleaning, helping with homework, folding laundry until midnight. That was my life every day for years. I didn't plan on raising them alone. Life just turned that way. One walked out, and the other 2 never showed up. So it was me and them. I remember holding my newborn with shaking hands, wondering if I could really do it all by myself. But when I looked into those tiny eyes, I knew I had to. I knew I would. We didn't have much. Some months the electricity got cut off. Other times, dinner was rice and canned soup. But I made our little home warm with stories, songs, and love. I turned birthdays into magic with dollar store decorations and homemade cakes. When they were sad, I held them like the world would never hurt them. When they were sick, I prayed silently while cooling their foreheads with trembling hands. I remember the joy 2 first steps, first words, graduation days. I was there for all of it, cheering louder than anyone else. Not because I had extra energy, but because I had extra love. That kind of love makes you strong in ways people don't see. It kept me going when I wanted to give up. When I was so tired my bones ached, I still showed up. I always showed up. There were nights I cried quietly into my pillow, wondering if I was enough. Wondering if they'd resent me for not giving them more money, more vacations, more of the things their friends had. I couldn't give them a big house, but I gave them safety. I couldn't take them on cruises, but I gave them every bit of my time. My love didn't come wrapped in shiny things. It came in the form of sacrifice over and over again. I didn't do it for applause. I didn't do it to be remembered as a hero. I did it because I loved them deeply, fiercely, and I thought that would be enough to keep us close forever. I used to think distance was measured in miles, but these days I've learned it's measured in pauses, in unread messages, in birthdays missed, in the way someone can be just one phone call away, but feel like they live on another planet. I've Spent a lot of time trying to figure out when it all started to change. There wasn't a fight, no screaming match, no falling out. Just life quietly shifting while I was busy holding it all together. I blinked, and my babies were adults. I celebrated their new lives, their jobs, their partners, their independence. I smiled and told them, "Go live, go build your dreams." But I never imagined they'd build a world I wasn't part of. I don't know if I failed at something, or if this is just how things go now. Maybe I didn't teach them how to stay connected. Maybe I taught them to be so strong, they forgot how to come back. I tried to give them everything I never had, but maybe in doing so, I gave them too much room to leave. It's not like I don't hear from them at all. Sometimes there's a birthday text or a rushed call on a Sunday when they're driving somewhere, but it feels more like an obligation than a desire. And it hurts. Not because I want to be the center of their world, but because I spent so long making them the center of mine. I sit and wonder, did I push too hard? Was I too focused on discipline, on doing things right? Did I forget to laugh enough, to listen enough? Or was it simply that life pulled them in so many directions, and I was one they forgot to circle back to? There are things I wish I could ask them. Do you remember how hard I tried? Do you ever think about me when you tuck your kids in at night? Did you know I still keep your childhood drawings in a box under my bed? I don't ask those things. I don't want to sound needy, but there's an ache in me that lingers. Not because they've moved away, but because the closeness we once had feels like it's moved out too. And that's the kind of grief no one warns you about. At first, the silence felt like a punishment. I'd walk past the phone every morning, hoping today might be the day it would ring. I'd glance at the screen, refreshing messages that never came. In the beginning, it hurt like a fresh wound, sharp, confusing, personal. I'd ask myself the same questions over and over again. What did I do wrong? Why don't they want to talk to me? Don't they miss me? But silence has its own kind of wisdom. With time, it stops screaming and starts whispering. It teaches you to sit still with yourself, to listen to what's beneath the loneliness. And slowly, painfully, it shows you things you never wanted to learn. I learned how much of my identity was wrapped up in being a mother. Every decision, every sacrifice, every dream, I had funneled it all into raising them. I didn't just give them everything I had. I gave them everything I was. And when they no longer needed me in the same way, I didn't know who I was anymore. I had to rebuild myself, not as someone's parrot, but as someone worthy on her own. That was hard. It meant facing years of neglecting my own needs. It meant looking in the mirror and seeing a woman who hadn't truly rested, dreamed, or loved herself in decades. It meant mourning not just the distance from my children, but the parts of me I'd buried to raise them. But silence also became space. Space to rediscover forgotten joys, to read without guilt, to garden without rushing, to dance alone in the kitchen without feeling foolish. I began writing again, something I hadn't done since I was 22. I started walking every morning, not to stay fit for someone else, but because it felt good to move my body. The quiet, once suffocating, became a place of healing. Still, I won't lie to you. There are moments the ache returns without warning. A family holiday I'm not invited to, a photo of them smiling without me, but I no longer crumble. I no longer define myself by the love I don't receive. I still love them. I always will. But I've stopped waiting for them to come back in the way I used to. What silence taught me is this: you can grieve what's gone and still be grateful for what remains. You can love people from afar without losing yourself in the process. And you can make peace with the fact that some goodbyes are never spoken out loud. They just settle in slowly, like dust. If you're still listening, maybe you know this feeling too. Maybe you've sat by the window wondering if they'll remember you. Maybe you've stared at your phone, pretending you weren't hoping it would light up. Maybe you've held your breath when someone asked, "How often do your kids visit?" and answered with a smile that hides the truth. I want you to know something I had to learn the hard way. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not a failure. Just because they don't call, the love you gave still lives inside them, even if they don't show it the way you hoped. And the life you built, brick by brick with calloused hands and a tired heart, matters. It always mattered. We don't get to control how others love us back, but we do get to choose how we keep loving ourselves. We get to decide that we're worthy of joy, of peace, of softness, even if it has to come from within. We get to rewrite the story, not as someone waiting for a phone to ring, but as someone who found grace in the silence. I may have raised them alone, but I'm learning now how to stand on my own. And if you're out there, feeling like no one sees you, please hear this. I see you. Your story isn't over. Your love wasn't wasted. And somewhere deep down, I believe they remember. Maybe they just don't know how to say it yet, but you've already said it with a lifetime of actions. And that is enough.